news and entertainment. We're coming to you live from State House. And I must say, good morning, Mr. President. It's so humbling to have you on the show and to have us on this special occasion because this is a special anniversary show that we are having with you. Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning. How are you? How are you, Bob?
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, listeners. Across the country. Thank you.
All right, Mr. President, it's now over a year since you won the election, officially the 7th Republican president, after several attempts. And the question that I need to ask you now, has it finally sank in that you are officially Zambia's president, or sometimes you need to pinch yourself just to believe that indeed you are president?
No, we definitely find, as I said, once more, good morning, listeners, citizens of Zambia, and thank you very much to Hot FM for this opportunity to have this radio show. As we agreed when we were in opposition that we will continue the interaction with radio stations, media, public and private. So this is really confirmation of what we committed ourselves to doing. And we were also seeking public office. People of Zambia voted for us. Thank you very much once more to the people of Zambia. We are relaxed about the situation because we were seeking it, we got it. So the position, the answer to your question is that there's no pinching one's skin. It is what we're looking for. Now it's for us to deliver.
What are some of the fundamental changes that have come with, you know, the change in offices? I want to bring in your wife, the mother of the nation now, Madam Muthinta Hichilema, who's now the First Lady.
Yes.
Does she still get a chance to prepare meals for you?
She does. I mean, we remain an ordinary family. The fact that we work from here in this State House, which is the People's State House, by the way, as servants of the people, we still live an ordinary life. Chinta's cooking for us. She needs help as she did before, and but she does play her part. The answer is yes. Thank you.
Now, Mr. President, you are keeping a very gruesome schedule, if I may use that term, and somebody recently compiled your July engagements, describing you as a very, very hardworking president. Are you getting any rest?
Well, it's a mind frame situation. I'm a believer that we want to achieve, we want to deliver whatever we want to deliver. We must work for that, which we want to deliver, and we must get it very clear that wanting something is one, getting it is another. So if you want something, to get it, there is no magic, there's no witchcraft, there's none. Yes, lucky comes because one has worked, but the fundamental thing is to work. And again, to refer to what we were saying when we were in the opposition, that politics, as others call it, is a game. It is not. I think what you've said, Bob, simply proves that argument we made. That politics is serious business, and business means work. Okay. Not abruptly, not once, not twice. Work, and more hard work. Then you achieve what you want. I think that's the encouragement I want to give the people of Zambia. We have to work. The culture of hard work was lost in the last 7 years. We have to retrieve this in order for us to succeed and serve our people.
I want to throw in something there, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Just seeing that schedule and us wondering if you ever get any sort of rest. I know that our former president, I pick on Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, had a way of relaxing. He used to play golf, he used to sing for his wife Betty. What do you do when you want to relax?
I do sing.
Oh.
I do sing. I don't use the guitar.
Yes.
KK did it. We called him Super Ken. You guys are young. We called him Super Ken at the time. But I do sing all sorts of songs. I make noise in the shower. But I make noise while thinking what to do next. So remember when I was saying there's no lucky, there's no chance to work hard. But the thing is that the tiredness, fatigue is in the mind. The body follows the mind. If the mind says, I need to rest so many hours a day, the body responds. The mind says, I need to work for so many hours in a day. The body equally responds. So it's a thing of the mind. One has to have a strong mind. We're fortunate that we have a strong mind. Thank you. So KK did things. He used to relax in his own way, but he worked hard. Eh?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, it was very
Post-independence, we had very little. He worked very hard.
apart from
So the good news is that he inherited a sound treasure. I'm sure you remember that.
yeah, yeah.
Our situation was difficult. We inherited first a mass-stressed economy. Then that time the economy was small. We inherited treasury, sound treasury. We did it. We are now rebuilding the treasury. So extra more work is needed. Thank you.
So you're saying you have no chance, any chance of playing any sort of sports, golf maybe, little football here and there.
I do certain things. Relaxing, walking. It's important to many of us. I'm a nature lover. I love nature. That's why I do cattle. Whenever I can find time, I'll relax it. But really, we have work to do first. I think once we've stabilized things, we know exactly where things stand. We can create some space to take some sort of relaxation of some kind, different with different people. Thank you.
Now, obviously, being president comes with a lot of responsibilities and engagements as well.
Yeah.
But we equally can't ignore the fact that you're a family man, you have children,
Indeed.
and you have remarkably decided to, just keep the children out of the limelight. So, do they sometimes share stories with you of how their lives have changed from the time you became president?
Not really. We're a bit fortunate, and hopefully stays like that. The kids are detached from public office issues as it is now. Obviously, they're interested to see what's happening with their daddy, who is president, with their mother, who is first lady. But by and large, we've encouraged our kids to do certain things at certain times. When we were in the opposition, we were much younger. And our message to them is that stay in school. Don't pay attention to what's happening, detention here, this and that. Just stay on course. School. It's time for everything. Now, 2 of them have completed school. We're trying to get them to work for themselves. I have made a decision, supported by my wife, that none of our kids will work for government. None of them will work for public office. They have to work for themselves. And I think that's important, that certain people set out to work for themselves. And we encourage them to do that. The last one is, we have 3 biological kids. We look after many. And before, when I said that, somebody said, oh, HH has so many wives and so many children. No, we look after kids of other people. It's part of us. It's growing up in a big community. So the last one is still in school. I think he's going to his last lap now. But so that's where we are. So they'll be busy doing things for themselves. We're encouraging them, supporting each other.
All right. Mr. President, I must say it's a privilege to interview you from this lovely State House. It's my first time here. I just want to say, yes, it's my first time.
Why?
You invited me, so
Why are you not coming in?
I have no answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just to commit to you, it's the people's house.
Okay.
It's your house.
All right. It's a lovely place, Mr. President. The gardening, just the aroma of the place, the surroundings. I'm wondering, why haven't you and the family moved into the residential side of, the presidents of Zambia, into State House, in Kwazi House?
Well, the fundamental thing is that, again, people do forget the narratives that were there before. So again, tracing back in the opposition, I was saying, we said then, our search for public office was not to get the glamour for the glamour. It was not for the glamour. Again, back to work. It was to work for the people of Zambia, to serve the people of Zambia. It wasn't for the things you've described around here. No. And so that position has not changed. It is to work and serve the people of Zambia, not to be served. So the glamour, you see it from a different angle. Again, it's a mind position, mind view. You sought public office for the glamour. Then you quickly rush for the glamour. You sought public office to serve, you quickly get on with work to restore the economy, to restore order in the country, normalcy. That's our priority. And this is the people's house. This is a workstation primarily it's the workstation. That time I did say that we'll continue living in our house. I think you didn't just pay attention. That's what we do. Number one. Number two, that house there, Quasi House, needs a lot of work. I don't know the security arrangements, but if it was not restricted, I would have encouraged you after this interview to take a walk there and look at the state of that place. It needs a lot of work.
So, but not to cut you short, Mr. President, it's a year now, and if you say it needs a lot of work, how much time are we looking at? If you have to say they have to work on Quasi for you to move on?
Well, the thing is that I talked about priorities. Our priority was to restore the economy, which we're working on. I think you agree. To bring about order in society, in the bus stops, in the markets. Stop the leakages in the treasury, and huge ones for that matter. So the question of priority comes in. I was just answering questions at point one. It was why we saw public over. Point two is the state of the house. Then point three, madam, is that the work has to be done. Quite all right. Whether we move in or not, we must restore the integrity of that asset called Mkwazi. In fact, there are two houses there, Mkwazi and another house. So yes, because those are public assets, they need to be restored. Integrity to a level, usable level, that's not a priority. That's where I was coming to. That's not a priority. Last point, so we can cover the things, is that any money that is available must be used prudently. Extravagance is not the way we were brought up. It's not the way we grew up. It's not the way we conduct business ourselves as a church. Because the quotations we got to do to repair that house, it was like building a new house. To give you an example, one quote was 14 million kwacha. You understand what I'm talking about? 14 million kwacha. Oh, would you put 14 million kwacha in one house whose walls are still standing? What are you going to do with 14 million kwacha? This is what we want to bring about under control in our country, so that extravagance is not part of it. Remember, we've set the rule templates. Any procurement of goods and services for public, central government, local government, must, one, be priced correctly. Correct price. No overpricing. Number two, quality of work must be right. Number three, must be delivered on time. Universal application. That house is not an exemption. Has no exemption. Everything. Thank you.
Okay, now, Mr. President, before you became president,
Yes.
You were a businessman,
Yes.
a very successful businessman, I should say, with interests in
Was Chris.
trade finance, ranching, agribusiness, and so many others. But my question now is, have you relinquished your business interest, and if not, who's running your businesses?
Well, this is a very good question. How can we relinquish who we are? Because we've worked for ourselves from the age 27. All these years, we've been working for ourselves. We've sought public office. How can we now throw away what we've created and work for? Not possible. Not right either. So the thing is to structure them properly so they can continue running. Why? Because we must work to grow what we create, as the country must be grown. So how we manage. Secondly, those assets also belong to the children. So, because that's the way it should be. You and him and this friend of mine must work for yourself and for your children and other citizens who benefit like us, those we pay school fees for years, 30 years plus. We must continue. And lastly, really around this issue, is important for those seeking public office, whether councillor, mayor, council chairperson, member of parliament, you want to be a minister, you want to be a president, I encourage people to work for themselves first. to create value for themselves, so that when they come into public office, they are not eyeing the nice things you've seen around here. Say, I could have that. No, that belongs to the public. We create a separation. Public assets are for the public. 18 million of them, plus. Why do I say 18 million plus? Including the unborn home. Those are their assets. Private assets must remain private. That distinction will help the country fight abuse of resources, fight corruption. And we're determined to continue with that separation. Thank you.
All right. Mr. President, just to stick to business, still on the subject of business, because many Zambians want to know why you haven't publicly released your declared assets and liabilities. For someone like you who's championing the corruption and corruption fight and open governance, this appears rather odd.
I'm not sure why you find it odd. I've been declaring assets ever since I was obligated to do that by the law. Maybe you've not been paying attention. If you remember, there was a debate in 2015 when we declared assets, because we were required to, and they were made public. Maybe you forgot.
No, we haven't.
And all of us presidential candidates declared assets. 2015, in fact 2014, for the 2015 election. Remember, the elections in 2015 were in January of 2015. And then we had another election in 2016. And we declared assets again. And there was a huge debate that amongst the presidential candidates, one had declared a figure in 2015 for the 2015 elections, and another figure for the 2016 elections. And in 1.5 years, there was a huge difference. You didn't pay attention to my declaration. It was there. I'm contextualizing. And we'll continue. Just last year, we declared. We submitted in accordance with the law. So that notion is not right. Absolutely not right.
Is it going to be made public? Is it going to be made public, your declaration?
What do you mean? I'm saying they are public declaration. They were filed in public institutions. So that's it. I'm sure they are valid. They are valid. We have made our position very clear. Remember, in the opposition, there was an issue of no HH stole a house. Remember? Limmerbank House. I simply answered, I don't steal. I don't take what's not mine. And I challenged that person who said I stole a Limmerbank House. And they named the house, my Kablonga House, our Kablonga House. And I challenged them to go to court. They didn't. I gave them time that if you don't go to court, I will go to court. I went to court. First round I won. I'm very unhappy that I've had to suspend that litigation because the law now does not allow a sitting president to litigate. It demonstrates to you how much of transparent we are, how much disclosure we give. Next issue, you heard about HH having stolen a house from 1924 in Galop. We went to court. I won the court matter because I never stole. I bought a farm. So what disclosure is there we're talking about? It's all in there, public institution. It's in the courts of law, some of it, right? And the courts of law documents are valid for you to go and check. It is not for me to start putting newspaper adverts all the time. No.
So, Mr. President, what you're saying is, as far as you're concerned, you've already filed in your assets and it's entirely up to Cabinet Office to publish them.
It's entirely up to the citizens also to take interest instead of just listening to someone complaining. Just go and seek recourse to the institutions that are holding those declarations. That's it. But I also want to make it very clear here. Assets grow, Assets grow. Liabilities also grow. If you have a loan, you don't service it, it grows. Depending on the loan agreement, compounds. If you have assets, like now the economy slowly is beginning to improve, the assets grow. Even if you don't touch them, but you just manage them properly, you don't take away, they grow. So every now and then, the asset values will be different compared to liabilities, assets, less liabilities, give a net position. That's the way it
I think
is.
that's-
Some people will have assets actually declining. Why? Because their assets haven't grown as much as their liabilities. I don't want to go into technical. It's a nice conversation.
I think that's why the people of Zambia wants to know, want to get a public declaration from you so they make a comparison at the end of the day, because come 2026, obviously people look at the same numbers, like we did with your predecessor.
Yes.
Look at the numbers and people ask questions. I think that's where the concern is coming from as well.
We have no issue with that. We come with clean hands. We conduct business with clean hands. We encourage other Zambians to do the same. By the way, if on this subject, if you were called by the police to explain how you got an asset, just go to police. Just explain. Why do you make a big song about it? Will you complain? Why do you accuse HH that is taking you to court? Is HH the one who created the Anti-Corruption Commission? No. Drug Enforcement Commission? No. Constitution? No. Yes, invariably through the people of Zambia. But it's not this fellow called HH. So we must desist from, when we are called by the police or the oversight institutions, that can we know how you bought the farm. Let me give you an example. Again, Farm 1924. I'm sure you understand the halabu that went around that issue. 2 people were killed around Farm 1924. You've forgotten already. Nsama Nsama and Joseph County. Just for me to go and answer, and I went. I answered. The matter was already in court. I won the court matter, as it were. I was not even the first buyer of that farm. I was third in line. So, I want to encourage Zambians. If you have not committed a crime, you are asked to explain. Just go and answer. I went and answered, presented the papers. I sat there for 4 or 5 hours, and I went back home. But the issue is that 2 people just, we shouldn't be doing those things. But it's part of what we're doing, law and order. Thank you.
Mr. President, I know I'll ask you to rate yourself or your performance within the year. But before we get to that, let's listen to what citizens think. We went around Lusaka, got a few opinions from
Yes.
different people on
Yes.
how they rate you and your presidency in the first year. Let's have a listen.
Okay. It's audio.
Yes.
Is it playing or not yet?
Naona different very.
1 year ba UPNG yakwana yeye.
They have performed well. One, governance. Governance, they were at least controlled. Of course, in some areas, it's unnoticed cadres are still misbehaving. But generally, I would say at least 70% they have controlled.
Tapamunga vamnena ona komunga hapa libe mwanti mapromise yakalibwamba kuchitika but twapa za time kai bisunga fikire pamne hapo voice wa vi chitamshemusha
Economy na chebwino cause vindu vizanga chebwino at the end of the day. Ina balance chebwino bwino so che. Bastinga ili personal listening turned out but naona difference very.
1 year ba UPNG yakwana yeye. Bachukuru chabe baikireko chenzero mbaso munga drama za chivuta business ya buri hapa so stizi wakapena nchana. Awe drama mani batairika uzero zioneke zikazipezeka.
Njala chito chinjako chindiwe tetachinja otherwise kapisi twende kalimo but njala yatubali na business of course but you mtendere ulipo but vasala vile njala isi chinga mtendere livita pesa
imela bwino ise that ina freedom Zambia mwatu freedom ende inachoka hapo so tina freedom ise bantu tiziende bwetifunira kwatsenza kwati pano pa market senza bena freedom kubechikana chibwe chikuyofe chikite bwanji.
Business is slow, so we just need to fight the economy, at least to stabilize the kwacha, to appreciate the kwacha, so then everything will be fine.
All right. So those are the voices that we collected, Mr. President. A quick reaction from what you heard.
I think it's very nice to listen to citizens assess the way they feel about it. So I think you picked up those comments. Overall, I think some are saying they performed well, 70%. The important things to say, to pick here is also what people are picking what we were saying when we were campaigning. For example, the issue of law and order. I think they agreed that there's law and order. Ndeo market, that's what we were saying. Ndeo Basira, Baziendela means they are moving freely. That was one of our campaign promises, that we will restore law and order. And we've done it. There will be lingering cases of old habits die hard, if we may say that. And some people think that they can continue doing what was happening before, but the law will take its course. So I think that's good. The money needs to be available. That's the comment I had. That is true. But the issue is that the money got taken away by two things before we took office. One, high debt. Most of the money was going to servicing the debt. What's the solution for us? What did we say when we were in opposition? We said that we will restructure the debt. And we're just doing that, exactly. And then once we restructure the debt, which we have achieved to do, which our colleagues before us in government did not do for the 10 years they were in office. First, they couldn't do it because they were the ones borrowing. Two, when they realized they borrowed too much, they tried to restructure it. Nobody would listen to them. There was no credibility. We brought credibility. We've now got a debt framework agreed in accordance with our campaign promise. So we have achieved it. What this will do is to release resources into the economy. Money that was used going, for example, in Kongo, 10 pin. Now you were paying 7 pin per month to service the debt. And now you are only left 10, 3 quarters. 10 minus 7, 3 quarters. That's all you had to look up the fund. Then, now you have found an answer to restructure this debt. Some of it is taken out of the quantum, 7. Some of it is restructured, meaning the period for which you pay is extended, the interest comes down, because interest is the cost. Then you're only paying 4 quarters. So now you have 6 quarters in the house. You can take care of the fund. Country is not different. So we found that we were paying, an example, 7 quarters for the 10 quarters. We only left 3 quarters. This restructuring will now will release money which will come into the economy, and the people start seeing the money. One thing. Second thing, which again we promised, that we will ramp up the economy. We will bring growth in the economy. At the time when we took office, the economy was down, had collapsed from 6% growth per year, down to 5, to 4, to 3, to 2, to 1, to 0, to minus. In this period we've been in office, we've been able to turn around the economy. And now we are projecting to grow at 3.5%, from 0, from minus. Then you start seeing money in the economy, because that's how it works. The traders, marketeers will start seeing what is called liquidity, but in simple language, it's money which they can have customers buying their tomato, buying their onions, buying their merchandise. If they're trading at commercial market, they bring in, what do you call those blankets? They'll be able to sell, somebody will buy. That's a simplistic analysis. It's a bit more complicated, but that's a simplistic analysis. And that's why there was no money, because the money was taken out. Maybe number 3, why the money was taken out was corruption. Corruption. A road that should cost $1 million, it was costing $2 million. Now we are rearranging things so that we spend the $1 million and save the other $1 million. Then we can use that $1 million to buy desks in schools from Zambia, not from outside. It means a desk manufacturer locally now has a customer to pay for the desks. The desks are needed in school by the school kids because of free education. You see the story? So now there will be money in circulation. And he who sells desks will sell, gets paid. And when he gets paid, she gets paid, she will pay the supplier of timber. She will pay the supplier, he will pay the supplier of nails. That's how the economy works. So I want to assure my colleagues who were commenting there, that we are on the road to restoring the economy, and the liquidity slowly is coming back. There was another comment, peace but Njala. It's connected. The hunger side is connected, because if you have no money, if there's no production, if farmers got to produce maize, they didn't get paid. When we came in September, no, August, 24th August, we found farmers who had supplied maize, they were not paid. We paid them very quickly. They were not paid by the previous government. We paid them very quickly. So you see this year, farmers will be paid on time. Part of the changes we brought that will allow you now to be able to make food available and affordable. Very important. Produce more, process more, that's our agenda. Distribute more, export into the region and elsewhere, as we are doing already into Swaziland, into Congo DR, into Kenya. We have information, in case you didn't know, into Kenya. Part of the trips we are traveling, we are able to get business and we are selling food to earn more currency, more foreign exchange. That's why you're seeing the process stabilize. You see it from outside, I see it from inside and outside. We know what's going on. Thank you. And I think the last one, freedom, is here. That's true. We promised freedom. It's here. No fights in the market, bus stops, before, fights everywhere. Every week you were seeing someone in plant. Our own plant, Zambian plant. Not anymore. Someone will do it, they'll be punished. That's a commitment we made before forming government, and we're walking the talk. Business is slow. I think it's the same thing I've explained. But if you see, most of them will say business is slow, but we're happy about this. This we're not happy, but we're happy about this. Good news. Thank you. But we work hard, and it's good to get feedback from the people. Thank you.
Okay, now obviously if we have to look at your performance in this 1 year, it obviously comes with mixed reactions, and some observers feel you have done relatively well, and the only undoing is that you overpromised. So I think that's question number one. Do you feel you overpromised at some point? And if you were to rate yourself out of 10, what would be the score?
Well, first the rating is going to like us. That's mischief. We can't rate ourselves. The people must rate us, because it is the people we committed to work for. But we can only explain what we have done based on what we committed to do. Hope that's your question. And the way to do that is to maybe do a checklist of what we say to people who do. What have we done? I think it's very important to do something like that. But it's also important to say we inherited literally an economy in a crisis. Everyone knows. We inherited an environment where we were failing to service debt. Everybody knows. On the economy, so I don't go and come back, I've already outlined that the economy had declined. 6%, 2011, 7% to 0 to minus. What have we done? We've restored growth. Projection is at 3.5 from 0 to minus. Is that a failure or success? It's a success. No question about it. How did we get there? First, there was also debt default when we came in. Congole, too much Congole. And when we were campaigning, we said we will control Congole. We were doing just that. No default, which we found, stabilized it. Now we're saying we want to restructure and reduce the debt. Are we achieving? Yes. How? No further debt default. 2, the creditors have agreed to come to table to what we call a common framework. Success? Yes. What else are we doing? We've been able to get an RNet program which our colleagues before us were seeking, they couldn't get it. We've got it. In under 8 months in office, we were able to get it. Is that a failure or a success? It is a success. People are saying, oh, we don't need the IMF. Why? IMF is our own IMF. We're shareholders to the IMF. It's our organization, not a foreign organization. I've said this before. And we are getting facilities at the IMF. We got the SDR at 1.3 billion SDR at zero interest, no interest grants. Have you ever heard the IMF giving a grant to anyone? We got it because we made a case in line with our campaign promises. Is that a success or not? It is a success. Right? What else? Now we're going into the meat of the debt restructuring. September, October, you will hear the good news. Again, that will release money which was going to service the debt and bring it back into economy. We can put it in agriculture to support more farmers, to produce more food for our own consumption or export. What else? We are going to now be able to put money in education. We're going to put money in health. We're going to put money in other services, water and sanitation. We've heard our view. We've enhanced the money going to communities. We promised that we will increase money going to communities away from the center, where most of the thieving takes place, in Lusaka. Save it from the thieves in Lusaka and take it. When I say thieves in Lusaka, I don't mean the people who live in Lusaka like you, those who were occupying public office and they were friends. Because that's how they stole the money, by building expensive roads and pocketing the difference, poor quality, as I said. High cost, poor quality, late delivery. We're switching around these things. Then the savings from there, we can put into the communities through CDM, Constituency Development Fund, which we've already demonstrated that it can work. We put it in free education, which we've already demonstrated it can work. People said it cannot be free education. We said yes, there will be, and it's there. We succeeded in that area. We have CDF, we've succeeded. They're teething issues. But we are now saying to the local authorities, last week, you remember, at a meeting with them, and we sent a message clear. CDF is not for politicians, it's not for civil servants, it's for the people. Let it go to people. Every clinic, we've agreed now, every clinic, anywhere in the country, public clinic, must have a maternity wing. So that your auntie, my niece, does not deliver under a tree. My mother gave birth to me in a grass-thatched house, not in a maternity wing, no running water. My grandmother was a midwife, not anymore. I can't sit in this presidency and allow those things to continue in Katete, in Chikalaba, in Kashinakashi, in everywhere. No. So we agreed that every health center, wherever it's located, at a bare minimum, must be a maternity wing and must be running water. We have allocated money for that. But the issue was to prioritize. We succeeded in that issue. We said before when we campaigned, yes. Where? Clear. Where else? Desks, I talked about it. Classroom space, free education, yes. Success. Classroom space, more classroom space. What else? We want to make sure that we create any contract to build a clinic, to build a health center, anywhere, it must be built by people from that area. Is it happening? Yes. Success? Yes. So the list is long, but it's up to you how you want to structure this interview. Otherwise, we can go on and articulate, this is what we said we'll do, this is what we've done. Success or not, success or failure. The judgment is the people's and yours. We will simply say, we said we'll do this, we've done it. Or we'll do this, we're working on it, because things cannot be done in 1 year. We have a 5-year mandate. 5-year mandate means that we have to do what is called first priorities, then move on the rest. Thank you. Go ahead.
And maybe just to get back to the issue of debt restructuring.
Yes.
As a country, we have been on this path for a while now. And some Zambians feel, and if we're going to have a conversation about debt restructuring, obviously we can't ignore China. And some feel we engaged China a little too late the conversation you had with the Chinese president, which happened sometime in May, shouldn't you have engaged the Chinese much earlier, seeing that we owe them a huge chunk of money?
No. Hope. The
6
fact.
months wasn't it?
No. But it's not true that we engaged them 6 months after forming them. We engaged every creditor. Remember, we said we would engage creditors when we were still in opposition. Every creditor, no. In case you are not aware, before we took office, we actually started engaging creditors. Maybe you've forgotten. I went to London to have a meeting with the Eurobond holders when I was in opposition. We started engaging creditors. One of the things we were doing to establish what they are owed. Does it agree with what we are saying we owe them? Remember, we had that conversation as to what the total amount of money our friends acquired. Even they didn't know, because they started acquiring debt from Ngore through competition. This ministry was acquiring a debt, this ministry didn't. So that was the first process. Oh, everybody was engaged, except the way the debt was acquired, the arrangements, the agreements were different with each credit. So again, we had to get a handle on that. It's not that we were not engaged. If you didn't hear us talking to this one, it doesn't mean we were not engaged. It means we were engaging them by doing business the way it should be done. How should it be done? Properly, methodically, in an organized way. Otherwise, you cannot manage the problem if you are not organized. And this is really what we brought, the discipline of running things properly in a way that you can deal with them and deal with them successfully. So the first component of my answer to your question is that it is not true that we engage China-led. We're engaging everybody, understanding what we call in corporate finance term sheet, meaning the terms of agreement. How much? How much? At what interest? Over what period? Once we understood this, we then said, okay, this one, the category of debt lent requires a solution which needs to take account of 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you know what I do in State House every day? The citizens know. They don't. But they understand, they should understand that we are organized. We're working in an organized way, not cheap and tepid. That's why the country went down, the economy went down. So the simple answer is that we were engaging. Number two, we needed to engage in a way that no creditor felt disadvantaged. It is called common framework. I'm sure you've heard that word. Common framework, meaning that there's equitous, fair treatment. So that if we get a transaction, an arrangement, an agreement, let me use a simple language, with creditor A, does not disadvantage creditor B. So we needed to get them to a table. Did we manage to do that? Yes. Oh, talk of May, 16th of June, we had the first creditors meeting. Agreed negotiations, very difficult negotiations behind the scenes. That's how business is done. Noise is one thing, what you hear is one thing. The actual stuff that goes on requires a lot of technical understanding, relationships, and all. We have to pull those together, which our colleagues before us failed to do. No question about this. No one would have come to table, because anyway, they created the situation. But it's not the issue. The issue is for us to resolve it. It's what committed to people was to resolve it. Now, once we did that on 16th of June, this year, remember? Then, and mind you, we had to do this after our budget. And we commenced implementing our budget in January. So by January, we started by June, 6 months down the road, we were sitting the creditors together. Thank you to all the creditors. Now, who are those creditors? All, including who? China. Would China come to the table on the 16th of June if we were not engaging? The answer is no. So we were engaging. So to shorten the answer, so we can cover more ground, the group of creditors in their numbers and diversity, we are talking. There's a chair, a co-chair of the group of creditors, China and France, the very country you mentioned. For them to agree to co-chair, we did a lot of ground. Sent our foreign minister there, Minister of Finance engaged, State House engaged, Justice engaged, others. In mine, talking to President Xi Jinping, which I appreciate a lot, was to unlock certain things that needed to be unlocked. I will not disclose it, but they are good for you and for every Zambian. Then the second meeting took place, just to agree with you. This month, early this month, or thereabouts. No, late last month. We were in agreement. Fantastic. Such success already, it is success. Unlocking the IMF problem, which is important, our IMF on our tables, because it's us who want. And remember what I was saying earlier in opposition was that we will make sure we restructure, we refinance. The objective is to lower the cost of the debt. That's the objective. Don't worry about the specific details, but the outcome is to lower. The example I gave you, paying 7 kwacha to 10 kwacha was too much money, left us only very little money. Remember? Yes. More than 50% of our budget, but more than that, well over that, maybe 70% was going to debt and debt service. How can you run an economy? So by doing what we've done now, we will release revenue, which hope and my friend will come into the economy and create jobs, and the citizens will start seeing that. Fantastic, fantastic, under very difficult conditions, including COVID. Including so many other things. So we have achieved. So China is the co-chair, France is the co-chair. 2 days ago I was in Kinshasa. I was thanking for the study meeting. I was thanking South African president and the people of South Africa because they were the deputy chair on the debt common framework, which we negotiated them, and we're good to go.
Mr. President, not to cut you short, but we're still talking about China here.
Yeah.
We've seen you commission some
Yes.
impressive infrastructure,
Yes.
initiated or completed by the PF administration, and mainly funded by China. But in all this, you have not publicly acknowledged the role that the former administration played in this project. Is it hard to offer credit to the PF when it's clear they did, some things good?
You get it wrong. That mentality is wrong. What do you mean? What do you mean we must thank Sambo? Zambians don't have to thank me for the job I'm doing. It is what they voted me to do. They must not agree when I do wrong things, like to acquire debt like this. Your economy is $25 billion. Somebody borrows $19, $20 billion. That's the issue. The issue is that the government is a living thing. Why didn't you say we should thank President Kaunda? Why are we not thanking President Kaunda? We are. Thanked him for the 27 years. We thank everybody else. If you listen to my speech at the Sunday meeting, I covered those issues. That yes, there was a change of government. I'm the new president of Zambia, the servant of the people. We will continue where others left. Where they did good things, we'll continue with those good things. Where they did wrong things like this, we're talking about the debt, we'll find an answer. Not that we created the debt, but it's our duty, because that's why you elected us into office. So we must take this notion out that this project is owned by MMD. No. This project is owned by UNIA. No. This project is owned by PF. No. This project is not owned by UPND. They are owned by the people of Zambia. The question is that when UNIP is in office, it must do the correct things to make the country grow, not to take away. So is MMD, so is PF, so is UPND. That's how you judge the leadership. So it's not to single out to say, thank this one and that one. If I said, thank me for restructuring the debt which our colleagues created. No. Why not? It's my duty. and you will judge the UPND in the totality of things, what we've been able to do. But I don't have to ask to be thanked, because that's why I accepted to run for office to serve you. This notion you have is because there's a perception that public money belongs to a political party in office. No, that's where we get it wrong. When you say what PF did, what did they do? Did they use their money? No. Whose money? Zambian money. When they borrowed money, who suffers? Is it PF who suffers? No, it's you, the people of Zambia. That's why we must conduct ourselves in office properly, so that we don't bring pain to citizens. We bring pleasure to the citizens, as to restructure the debt. Two groups, PF, UPND. PF created a debt, excessive debt. The economy went down. I've said this before. They borrowed high, created a liability. Where is the asset? Believe me. How do we know? Because the economy went down. Now our job is to restore the economy so we can help the people. So what is this nicety about saying this one did this one did that? Let us do what is right for the people. The center of interest is the people of Zambia, because we're using public money. The question of now comes, why do we elect leaders? Is to elect leaders, a team that will use public money properly, public resources properly, without taking them away for individual use or ownership. Also those that will run the resources in a way that will bring more growth, more success for the people, such as jobs. And I hope we'll talk about jobs somewhere. Otherwise we'll get lost into, why thank this one, thank this one. We shouldn't wait to be thanked. When I send my children to school, they shouldn't thank me. Maybe they will, but my answer to them is that, Sani, it's my duty to send you to school. HH's duty is to make the lives of the people of Zambia better. So is the cabinet, so are the members of parliament, so are anyone in public office such as parastatals. Remember we had a meeting with parastatals, right? Because they thought that they're outside the remit of being managed. No, they use public money. So are the councils. So that's why you see me meeting all these people, so that we have a shared vision. What is that vision? To better the lives of the people. Send that child to school, an orphan. One she won. Aba never wapina. Bantu wobutika. Bantu wapengile. That is our duty, my dear friend. It is not to focus much on this is who did this. If you ask me to do this, why do you complain when I say PF destroyed the economy? What do you want me to simply say, I thank PF? But when I say PF destroyed the economy, PF borrowed more money, there was too much corruption in PF. No, don't talk about PF. Talk about what you do. Now you are asking me to talk about PF. So what do you want? What are you inviting me to do? I'm inviting you that let's talk about what was wrong, even if it was by maybe UNIP or MMD or PF, and focus on what is right and what this leadership is doing to transit the country in an economy that was sinking in all respects. Look at the Kwacha. You remember where it was when we took office? 23 Kwacha.
Which was 15 Kwacha.
It
was 15 Kwacha at the time you were elected. Yes, Mr. President.
I can help you with the 22 Kwacha. It has actually reached 24 Kwacha. Getting towards the 25 Kwacha. We brought it down to stability. What is important is stability in the economic sense. Is stability. Settling at a fair price. Everybody knows, even marketeers we met, you will hear them if you open the discussion. It's common knowledge, right? So stability. Where was the inflation? The increase in the cost of goods. 24.5, 25%. There, records of it. Where is it now? Single digit. Is that a success or not? It is. What does it do? It lowers the rate at which prices increase. What else? Interest rates were too high. You couldn't borrow. Now we brought them down. They're coming down. I'm sure you're aware some banks have announced the reduction in the mortgage rate to allow you to borrow to build a house or to buy a house from 24, 26 to 16%. This is what we set out to do so that we can stabilize the macros. We can now be able to get the people to borrow to grow their businesses or to build their house. That is what we set out to do. To be honest, this is very important. May I remind you, when we came in, there was load shedding or no load shedding? There was load shedding. We committed to the people of Zambia that within a year of being in office, we will end load shedding. Do you have load shedding in your house now? Oh, do you have load shedding in your house?
Yeah.
To be honest, Mr. President,
It's come down and it's ended. How did we do it? We simply looked at a few parameters. One of them was that Kafue-Go's lower power station was abandoned in 2019. 2019, five generators were to be built. Only one was built, abandoned. Within the last few months, we've been able to raise money and bring the other generators on board. No load shedding. We are now exporting electricity to Zimbabwe, to Congo, and elsewhere. Within 8 months of being in office. Is that a success or not? It is a success. Did we say we'll do that when we were in opposition? Yes, and we've done it. Now we want even to produce more so that we can export into Congo. We're working on the Congo-Zambia interconnector, which means we can, once we produce the power, we can transport it. It's called evacuation in electric energy terms to East Africa. That's why you saw me going to sit with the president of Tanzania a couple of weeks ago to get the Congo-Zambia interconnector so we can send power there, because Southern Africa was already connected. These are the measures that will help bring value to the economy. And certain things, you don't even realize they've been done. Thank you.
Right now, Mr. President, it's a year we are looking at, and obviously a lot has happened now.
Yes.
Let's move on to the next item, the Constitution. Now, Justice Minister Honorable Malambo Haile signaled the start to a constitutional development process, but has not spelled out a clear roadmap. So we want to hear it from you as President. Are we seeing a new constitution from the UPND administration its first term in office?
Constitution is the people's mandate. That's why when the government tries to run a constitution to their own dictate, they don't succeed. It's a people's domain. We know what is wrong in the constitution by and large. Zambians know through the various constitutional review commissions and also the lacunas that were identified. I'll give you an example that created a problem for us. The 2016 amendment to the constitution required that when there's a change of government, you cannot appoint an attorney general, a solicitor general, until you get parliamentary approval. But after election, it takes long before parliament sits. So you wait. Now, business doesn't wait. You have to do business. Those are lacunas, obviously. We agree. And we like it changed. But how do we get it changed? The people must agree. What else? We want more women in parliament, more youth in parliament. To do that, we have to amend the constitution. Agree. What else do we want? For me, and I hope for you all, we're wasting money on by-elections. We should ensure that after the general elections, there should be no other elections until the next cycle of 5 years. No by-elections. But the Constitution provides for by-elections. And to stop the by-elections so that we don't waste money on by-elections and put that money to buy an extra desk, to buy medicines, we are wasting it on by-elections. I wish to have no by-elections. I'm a proponent of it. My hands are tied. And those others who agree to my view that by-elections are a waste of resources, we are bound by them. because we've agreed again. Another matter which we said we will deliver is the rule of law. And we have delivered it. It just comes, you don't even feel it. But the rule of law means we have to follow what is there. So what point am I making here? There are constitutional changes that are necessary, but the process requires the people to be involved. So when you say Minister Mlambo has not provided the roadmap, we are making sure that this time around, the reason Bill 10 failed was it was driven by a political party. We want to make sure that the constitutional change is driven by the people, with the people, for the people. And that's what we're working on. But the things that we're able to change and run like Public Water Act, remember? We promised that we'll amend the Public Water Act. Cabinet has approved the process of amendment, is now going through consultations. The Public Water Act will be amended because it's not a constitutional matter. Please understand. It's a matter of parliament through a vote in parliament. And this government is fulfilling its commitment that it will, as we said, amend Public Water Act. We have already started the process. Just to appraise you if you're not aware. It's in train now, meaning it's going on. So many things that are off the constitution, we are changing because some of the issues are inhibiting growth. And we have to attend to them. We are attending to them.
Mr. President, I want to throw in something that has been, I would say, the flagship of the 2020 budget, CDF.
Yes.
One of the major transformative policies changes
Yes.
has been on the CDF. A heavy jump in amount from 1.6 million, we're looking at 25.7 million now. A year later, its impact appears minimal. What have you observed?
Oh yeah, it's a very good point you've made, I must admit. What drives changes in the law is not the law, it's the policy. When we're in opposition, we said we'll take more money to the local communities. I think I touched on it earlier. CDF is one. Fundamental, dramatic improvement from 1.6 peanuts to 25.7, substantial. Per constituency, per year. I wanted to add on that because people may think it's a one-off thing. No, it's per constituency, per year, every year if you like. So that's a policy. We've driven it through the law. Which law? The Budget Act, January, became alive. But there was a CDF Act in place which restricted, are we together?
Yeah.
Which restricted the usage of CDF because it was a small amount. So now we are going to amend the CDF Act so that we stay within the law. So some things you hear outside is because you are not privy to the restrictions from inside. What are the restrictions? Is that the CDF Act was restricted because it was never designed by those who designed it at the time to cover a bigger chunk of money. Participation, who participates? We want, as I said, CDF is for the people. We would like not just councillors, not just the MPs, we would like also other community leaders to be involved, who are the church leaders in those communities, in those constituencies. Very important, because they are the communities we're saying. Communities must decide what is the development priority for them, and they must be involved. Critical issue. Money being available to support the local decisions. The local decision must not be restricted to politicians or public officers. It must include other community members, church, traditional leaders. There were restrictions in the Act. Are we together?
Yeah.
So we have to open up those restrictions. Then we have included more things in there which were not there. Women funds, youth fund, enterprise fund, small ones at that level, very low interest rates to allow growth to happen at the local level. The economy is not Lusaka. Zambia is not Lusaka. Zambia is Lundazi. Zambia is Mwinilunga. Zambia is Shangombo. Zambia is Chikalaba. Zambia is everywhere. So this is really, very grateful that you've asked that question. These are the, so while we are unlocking the law, it's going through the process, we use the opportunities within the law to now push for things. That's why you see desks being bought now, and we are buying desks, as I said, from local suppliers, instead of importing them from a foreign country, creating jobs there, we're creating jobs here. Very, very important, extremely important. So you will see more opening up of the CDF as we finally amend the law to accommodate the policy. Please, Zambians, get this sequence right. It's a policy first. Now the UPND policy was made for a larger CDF, local employment. It found a restriction in the existing law. We are unlocking this existing law to open up for the policy to be implemented fully. But it's already being implemented by and large. You see a lot of beneficiaries. How? One of the issues we've brought is free education, you're aware? You're aware of?
Yes.
But it didn't provide some element of boarding schools. So we found an answer through CDF, where in each constituency, kids that are going to a boarding school that was not covered in the free education policy and provision is now taken up by CDF, where thousands of kids have benefited from CDF already. I think you hear the stories around, isn't it? Yourselves, voice notes all over, people being very, very happy. So that is happening already within the restrictive law. As we open the law, there are windows that we're using. These are some of the windows. Great thing. Kids, send that kid to school, yeah.
Mr. President, I'm going to cut you short because we're pressed for time and all that, and we have to cover
Yeah.
a lot of bases.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw in more questions so that you touch on. You've added over 40,000 new workers to the public sector
Yes.
payroll. You know that the biggest chunk of the public purse goes to settling emoluments.
Yes.
Aren't you worried that without a corresponding expansion of the economy, adding more civil servants to the payroll might just collapse the economy?
Good question. But coin has two sides. Right? Two sides. 40,000 civil servants, public service workers. Where? Two main areas, isn't it? Education. You agree with free education policy. Zambians agree. But in schools there were no teachers. So what's the point of sending kids to school and there's no teaching? What's the point? This is why I'm saying running a country is serious business. Things are connected here. So free education policy meant the children who were not in school had to go to school. So pressure on desks. The answer is not to say the policy is not working. The answer is to buy more desks. We're doing that. I've already covered that. Then, without free education, with smaller numbers of pupils in schools, there were no teachers. So we had to employ the teachers. And again, we said it in the opposition. This is another success point. I'm glad you raised it. Yeah? Because there have been many of things that if we had structured the conversation in my way, I would have said, I was the interviewer, I would have said, HH, tell us what you have done against your campaign promises. We'll give you 10 minutes. I would have run through many of these things, which would have even restored some of the questions. But you are the boss. I'll follow the interview, the way you structure it. So, now, teachers, I said, can we debate that teachers are not necessary, we should not recruit? Absolutely not. Give a tick. We committed in the opposition, we've done it. Nurses, medical staff. Again, you go to a clinic, you found no medical staff. So even if the medicines were there, if they were there were no medical staff. So as we tackle the issue of health service delivery, medicines, before medicines, actual building, the building means nothing without medicines in it, without a nurse or medical personnel in it. So we are putting all these things together, my dear brother. That's why I call running a country policy is serious business. So,
Mr. President, not to cut you short, I understand the importance of the
Yes.
recruitment and the importance of the healthcare workers and the teachers in the school.
Mm.
But you're a numbers person, Mr. President.
yes.
I want us to look at the numbers. Do the numbers tally at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
or our economy is going to collapse because of this addition?
No. First, we have to establish the need. You see, again, if you just throw numbers anywhere, without the need, without priorities, that's why colleagues who you mentioned earlier did not think of free education, because they didn't say need. Education is the best investment. The need drives the numbers. Are we together? So, yes, to your question, having established the need, kids to be in school, they need teachers, employ teachers, in line with our campaign promise. The question of numbers, you're saying, is a question of priorities. We now retrieve money from building expensive roads. Let me give you one example, my beloved example. I'm sure you have an idea which example I'm going to use. Lusaka and Dollar Road. Our friends booked it, signed the contract, now they're arguing there was no contract. Strange. Some arguments are very strange. But let's leave that aside. If there was no contract, why did they pay $35 million as down payment to Lusaka and Dollar Road? They paid $35 million. We're trying to retrieve it now. So anyway, that contract was signed at $1.26 billion for 327 kilometers. My friend, money has no color. There's what is called revenue and expenditure. When you have revenue, the expenditure really is where do you now put the money? So for us, our priority is not to build the Lusaka and Dollar Road at $1.26 billion for that road. It must cost less. We have now gone to tender. We are looking at spending half that amount, less than half that amount. It means we have saved $700 million. When we save $700 million, that's the question you're asking me, why I'm explaining what they need. We then say there's no need to spend $1.26 billion here. This road only costs maybe $500 or $600 million. We save $700 million, $800 million. We now put it in supporting teachers. Priority, need, education is the best equalizer. That's the difference. That's why you elect governments. That's why you elect parties and their teams who are able to make that distinction. That this is a waste. You can still do the Lusaka and Dollar Road. Yes, we'll do it at a lower cost. Remember the three principles I gave you. Public procurement must follow the right price. Here's an example. And the quality, you will see it coming through. And timely delivery, you will see it. Then the savings from there. That's why I say to you, money has no color. We push it where? In education. Teachers, desks. Where else? We push it in health. That's why we're employing 12,000 medical staff. Hey, boom. That's the story. Leadership, management, that's the difference. That's what we bring to the table. That's why we're able to implement a free education policy. When colleagues from the previous government said it's impossible, we were in opposition. And they said, HH, amakonda ukambaka, akamba to Zakala free education, ndala mazilipu. Zilipu ni ndala. My answer was that I know where the money is. Did I lie? No. We're free education. How? I'll just explain. Move money from wastage, from corruption, from consumption, to investment, education, health. Hey, boom. That's the story.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
And more, but just to add you to help you, because I don't want someone tomorrow to say, so the only money is coming from reallocation. No. Growing the economy. Earlier on, I said to you, we inherited a collapsed economy. And in 8-9 months, we were able to retrieve the economy from negative to now projected at 3.5. Growth of the economy means more revenue. So it's savings driven by priorities one, then you save the money from wastage and consumption and corruption, then you reallocate it to where it's needed most, based on your policies and your belief on how to run the economy and serve the people. Then plus the growth arising from the economy that will now rebound. Investments, we haven't even talked about it. We've been able to bring billions of investments in a short period of time. We've brought more investments than a 5-year, 7-year window in 1 year. We're not even 1 year. We'll hit 1 year on the 24th of August. To remind you, we'll hit 1 year, 24th of August.
We'll get to the investments. We'll get to the investments.
No, I want to help you to understand that it's the priorities, then savings, then reallocation to need areas. You create, in finance, we call it headroom. Sure. By your ingenuity, your ability to understand what is more important than the other. Then the growth. How does the growth come? Come from investment. Are we bringing investment? Yes. Yes, and yes. And the numbers don't lie. I'm a numbers person myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, we'll move on to the next item. Mr. President, with the coming in of the new dawn, we saw the creation of a new Ministry of the Economy and Environment.
Yes.
And you attended the Glasgow COP26.
Yes, it is.
Now, institutions such as ZEMA have been stepping up with the issues to do with environmental
Yes.
risks and all, a very important role that Zena plays
Yes.
in this country.
Yes.
And my question now is, do we see more budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, looking at the scope of work that institutions like Zena have?
Yes, the answer is yes. Because it's a very important hope that we manage our country's resources. Again, my dear friend there talked about UPF, thank them for what. Our job is to do the right thing so that as we run the economy, as we create business opportunities, jobs, as we utilize resources, mining, minerals, timber, agriculture, all of those things, we must do them in a manner that does not destroy the environment. In a manner, what is called, which is sustainable manner, meaning we can manage resources, provide for the living population now, including you and I and others, but also make sure that your kids, and their kids can inherit a country where they too can continue providing for their kids and the kids to the poor. That is what is called responsible management, leadership, sustainable management, so that we gain the value. Now, we can also pass that asset to others after us and contribute, since we talked of COP, this week. COP26 means we commit ourselves to a certain number of increase in the temperature, certain figure, 3%, 3 degrees centigrade. Not 3%, 3 degrees centigrade. Two different things. Contain the increase in the global temperature by this number. So the things we do when we farm, we must do what is called sustainable farming. When we mine, we must mine sustainable. When you use power in your home to heat your geyser, we must not use brown energy. We must use green energy, which means environmentally correct energy, such as hydro, such as solar. So you will see now more investment, the answer is yes, in areas not just under the green economy, but in energy, tied to the green economy. For what hope? For environmental sustainability and meeting our obligations. It didn't even need COP26 to do that. We should have done it. We should do it. We must continue obligating ourselves, because then we'll be a responsible leadership. Comes to your question again. Responsible leadership means that you do the right thing so that you don't destroy the country. You don't damage the country. You create more value to the country, as I say, so that others can build on that. And that's why we sought public office, as a team, not me as an individual, but as a team. So the answer is yes, but beyond green economy, it will also be energy. It will also be agriculture. Have you heard something they call carbon credits? Did you're in the media. Did you follow the Minister of Agriculture last week? Actually this week. He went to Eastern Province to distribute $3 million to a number of chiefdoms, Wise East, amongst the chiefdoms that agreed to farm sustainably, free, and to make sure that they don't destroy the forest. And that's why they fight. You hear the big debate. That's what you're talking about. So that we can keep our world, our Zambia, green environmental program. There's actually money to be made. That's the point I'm making. There's money to be made in carbon credits by managing ourselves in an environmentally acceptable way. We can actually earn money through, amongst many other ways, carbon credits. And it has happened already to our local people in Eastern Province. I think it's 9 or so chieftains who shared $3 million. Can you imagine? By simply doing the right thing. We can earn more.
Not to cut you short, since you already said that we're the bosses here.
Yes, you are.
So that's a satisfactory answer. I would like to throw in another question to you, Mr. President. You've spoken passionately about the rights and freedoms of all citizens, even those who are in police custody facing criminal charges.
Yes.
Mrs. Mumbi Piri and her co-accused have not faced a judge for close to 6 months now. I just want to find out how does it make you feel, especially that you're an ex-remandee yourself,
Well, look, nobody should stay in jail when they shouldn't, in the first place. Very quick. Nobody should be in jail when they shouldn't. So our message is very clear. Before anybody is arrested, there must be an investigation. I think you've heard me say that. I'm addressing that to the police, to the oversight institutions, ACC, DEC, anybody. Please, let's investigate before people are arrested. Because you know I'm a victim of that. And if it wasn't good for me, it's not good for anybody else. So that's the first principle issue. Two, when people are arrested because it's now established that they committed a crime, they must go through the processes quickly and get certain constitutional, legal provisions respected. What are they? The crime is bondable. The police must keep bond. You heard me say that, right?
Yes.
If the crime is bailable, they must get bail. And the amount of bail charge must not be restricted to keep them in the cells or prison or correctional services longer. Clear, unambiguous. The law says they must be taken to court within 48 hours. Never happened to me, but I'm the best qualified person to agitate for others to be treated better than how I was treated. That's the way I see things myself. So, Mumbi Piri case. Was there an investigation? And here it was. She wasn't arrested immediately. Actually, that investigation, her arrest, to be honest, would have come much earlier before the change of government. Because Lawrence Banda was shot dead around 10, 11 hours in Kaoma. Broad daylight. People were watching with their naked eyes. And our sister said she was there, she was present. She even said Lawrence Banda stole a bag. Who said that? Is that not her? What does that mean? She was at the crime scene, isn't it? Why didn't she report to police who killed Lawrence Banda under the PF government? Because the law is the law. Why were there no arrests there? When somebody was killed, your own relative, my own relative, Lawrence, 23, 24-year-old, left a wife and kids. Is that the way we should live? No. Why didn't the police arrest the people? Because one confessed that she was there in the name of Mumbi. Nothing against her. Was there no crime? There was. Was somebody killed? Yes. A human being? Yes. A citizen? Yes. What does the law say? Arrest the killers. Why were they not arrested? That's the question. Justice is justice for all. Justice for Lawrence Banda, justice for Mumbi. I agree, 100%. Now, why wasn't the police able to arrest someone who confesses on it? It's all over your media. It's even in your radio station. It's there. I'm sure she even came to Hot FM to say, I was there. I was there. So why didn't the police arrest her? Because there were double standards. The law was not being applied universally. That's what we're urging for. Everybody must be treated equitably before the law. But the law must be followed fairly. That's my answer there. The issue of her staying without seeing a judge, Eddie, we must work together to unblock the justice delivery system. Remember? And that is not correct. I'm the first one to tell you that that's not correct. Everybody must be treated fair. If they committed a crime, they know who committed a crime. You also know that if you see someone being killed and you don't report to the police, you've committed a crime yourself. Although you may not be the one who put the truth. Because you must, as a good citizen, as law-abiding citizen, you must do that. So I think on that score, we're clean. We're good to go. The issue is the delays are unacceptable. You hear me? Yes. The delays are unacceptable. I'm a victim of that. And I'm determined, we are determined, together with you, to reform the criminal justice system, to offload what is called the backlog. For your information, I have asked the question myself. The question you just asked, I'm asking. I've been given answers. I'm not happy with the answers. So we're pushing, all of us. One of the things we're doing is that the judicial judges were not resident in many places. High courts, they used to what they call visiting. Judges go to visit. Now we are working, my friend, to make sure that, again, we are locating resources that every provincial center at least must have a resident judge, I beg your pardon, at the High Court level, because matter starts at the High Court level. You're with me?
Yes.
And that is the answer to your question. I'm not happy, you are not happy, we are not happy. Was there a crime committed? There's an alleged crime. And no one is above the law. But we must move quickly. Therefore, one of the measures to move quickly is to ask, decentralize, the way we are doing CDF, to decentralize to him. We've been talking at a meeting with the Chief Justice to help, to work together, to take judges where they should be, instead of judges visiting. How can judges visit? One area. Number two, to make sure that the courts function, administrative aspects of the courts. Number three, to make sure that we set additional courts that clog up the courts, such as the Economic Crimes Court. Good news, is it set up? Yes. Is it working? Yes. So it's taking the load away from certain judges or magistrates, and then leave those judges to attend to cases like multiplication. I'm with you. We are together. We want to deliver fair leadership in this country. What happened to us must not happen to other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Next item, this is another issue that raised a lot of talk, and I believe we just can't ignore it. Your relationship with Dr. Greg Mills of the Branches Foundation. We saw you attend that book launch.
Yes.
Obviously, there was a lot of talk that popped up afterwards. People, Zambians, wanting to know the relationship that you have with Dr. Greg Mills. Words like, is this another state capture? And also just wanting to understand the role that Dr. Greg Mills plays in the European administration.
You know, this is another of issues Zambians, some Zambians, a small number of Zambians, I must say, focus on the wrong things. Completely wrong things. How can you single out Greg Mills amongst HH's network of friends, who are many, locally here? Remember, I went to school, to a primary school, just like you made friends, isn't it?
Sure.
First, before you even went to school, people you were born with, you grew up with, their friends. Why are we not asking questions about us?
So is that the
People,
relationship you have with him?
listen, be patient. You asked a very important question, because I've been listening to this thing being parroted by people who really are losing track of where their attention must be. People were born with, starting with micro family, extended family, many. Remember, I'm a villager. We grew up in big families. When I was young, we'd share a meal, 30 of us, one meal, taking shima from one plate and dipping the shima in the soup, one plate. I'm a community man. I'm a friend of friends of friends. And that's good. That's why you are seeing the progress we've made. Very, very, very important progress in a short space of time. Because I can pick up the phone and talk to Crystalina, IMF Managing Director. Crystalina, can we move on this debt restructure? 01, the other time I was speaking to Crystalina, IMF Manager, at 01. He said, HH, I'm with you, my friend. She said, my friend, I'm with you. Relationships. That's what runs the world, relationships. From birth, school, UNZA. I've heard someone else say, oh no, he's a friend of this one. You must be very, very pleased with this HH, that is a normal human being who has friends. We keep our friends. Business, school outside Zambia, in the UK, right? All those are friends I encourage you to keep, because you will need them in the future. The world works on a network of friends, associates, people you share a vision with. So Greg Mills is just one of them. I have many friends, and I will use these friends to benefit this country, this economy. That's why we're able to get the IMF transaction deal quickly, which we couldn't do for 7, 10 years. We're able to do because we understand each other, our vision, and we say to them, this is our vision. We need support. This is our IMF program, not the IMF program for Zambia. This is our IMF program. Our Zambian government decides to say, this is what we want to do. How can we call free education an IMF program? Who told us free education? In opposition, I talked about it. Us. Is it good for the country? Yes. Offers. Now, hang on. The fundamental question you've asked here, because I hear, and I mean, I want us to clear this thing once and for all.
It's very important.
It's very important. So then, the World Bank. Why haven't you complained, my friends in the European Union? Why haven't you complained? Because I said to the colleagues there, we are here to do business. This country wants to do business to benefit citizens, to benefit everyone. We don't want the old business situation where people come and do business without Zambians benefiting. No, we're changing things here. All the time at the center is the benefits for the people of Zambia. So you are aware that I went to the European Union. I was invited to present at the European Union Parliament. I'm the first president ever. You follow, you're in the media. And we're looking at AU, which is African Union, EU, European Union partnership for the development of Africa, including infrastructure. You're talking about poor infrastructure, isn't it? The treasury is empty, we inherited. We are reorganizing. But we're also in a hurry to do rail systems, to do certain things. The interconnector I talked about between Congo and Zambia, so we can sell power to Congo. It's not only producing power you can't sell, because you won't have money to invest in other sectors such as education and health and agriculture. Water, sanitation. In Tanzania, East Africa. All of that we're working with the EU to support our agenda, and we raise resources at zero or very little cost, compared to the money that was raised that built the debt at 10% plus. If we can raise money at 0%, zero, or 0.75. Are you aware that now with the World Bank we are raising money at 0.75%? Are you aware of that?
So Mr. President, just to bring you back
Yes.
to your relationship with Greg Mills.
That's where I'm going.
I believe you're the right person to settle the minds
That's where
of the
I'm
many
going.
Zambians on this issue. So what you're confirming, in a nutshell, is that he plays no role in the European
Why not?
administration.
Why not? You're missing it. You're losing it completely because you are motivated to go that way. Huh? You get ignorance driving. Right? The issue is that Zambia is not an island. Where am I coming from? I arrived 01 in the morning yesterday. Where was I coming from? SADC meeting. Where are we members of SADC? How can you say that Zambia doesn't need SADC? Zambia needs SADC. What is SADC? It's Southern African Development Community. It's our own. Who created it? KK. Great KK. Nyerere. Samora Machel. They created it for what? So that the countries can work together to improve the lives of their citizens. SADC we are working on, even the road network I'm talking about, is a SADC project. We are working on is the rail line improvement, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Congo, to open up trade and investment. When we do that, we grow the Zambian economy, Zimbabwean economy will grow, South African economy will grow, all our economies will grow, then we'll create jobs. That's the connection. So, to single out Greg Mills because an opposition party is talking about Greg Mills every day, and you make it a subject on this platform, I'm very surprised, to be honest. It's something that's surprising. It shows how a wrong narrative can be driven to creating an issue where there's no issue. I am a friend of many, and when I was in opposition, I said, I will use my network of friends to benefit the country. And if Greg has a view, remember he's a writer, a lot of Greg's books are on our Zambian libraries. Why are we not complaining? Why don't we go and pull out all his books, which are all over how Africa can grow, how Africa can be the next tiger. What are the tiger economy? So
Mr.
What's the
President,
issue here?
yeah, Mr. President, since we're talking about relationships,
Yes.
I want to talk about foreign policy.
Hmm.
You addressed you had speeches at the UN, you addressed the EU
Yes.
Parliament, you visited the White House as well,
Hmm.
and another issue that we have to highlight in your presidency, you voted to reprimand Russia from, invading Ukraine in the UN resolution. Some people feel your administration is too West-leaning, with others calling you a puppet of the West. How do you respond to that?
That's your motivation. How can I just be a puppet of anybody? I can never be a puppet of Greg Mills. Greg Mills is a friend of mine. We share common understanding how to make. By the way, he's an African. Just that is one.
I'm not talking about Greg Mills.
No. I know where you're coming. Greg is an African, South African. We have whites here who are citizens of Zambia, and we must not discriminate. The issue you are talking about, let me stay with this issue a little bit. I went to school in England and in Zambia. I worked in England. I worked in Birmingham. I worked in London. So how then, why did you complain to the British that, what is that black person doing there, working in London? Would the British then say that they were puppets of black people because they worked in London and created value there and learned how to do things better? We all learn all the time. Zambians now are running banks around the world. Are you aware of that? So why don't you single out those Zambians who are running banks in South Africa, where Greg comes from, running big institutions in New York? I'll be going to New York. I'll be meeting Zambians for dinner. They are running fantastic things there. You should be proud of them. Medical doctors. We have a Zambian who is a medical doctor in California, who is a billionaire in America. He's a Zambian citizen. Worked there, went to school, worked there. Why are Americans not complaining about him? Civilization, civility, understanding that we are part of the global community. We're not an island. Mind you, we are in the middle. We don't have a seaport. Why do we have Tazara? Why did I go to Tanzania to discuss how we can improve Tazara? With the Chinese, by the way. Tanzania, Zambia, China. We are retracing the roots of Nyerere, Chairman Mao, KK. Why are we not complaining about that? We have a stronger relationship with China. Why are we not complaining about that? Why are we complaining about one of the many of it? Yes, if Greg has ideas that will help us create jobs, we will use his ideas. If Zambians have ideas, you guys, let me put it this way. Hang on, let me put it this way. Are you following what's happening in this region? Where countries around the region are saying, we want to learn from Zambia how they are managing their currency. It's the second best performing currency in the world right now. Watch it. And the whole world are saying we want to learn from Zambia. You don't want to learn from others. Others are learning from you. It's being uncivilized, completely and lack of understanding, right? So they're saying we want to learn from them how they put out inflation. Because inflation, if it's high, you can't develop an economy. No one will invest. Because the money gets eaten away, in simple language. Because inflation is a cost. From 25 to single digit. They're saying, how is Zambia doing it? If you, 2 days ago, I hardly sat in the site because most delegations were uniform. We need a site meeting with you. And what were the site meetings about? How we are managing inflation, how we are managing the currency, kwacha, against other currencies, how we are beginning to drop interest rates to create room for growth. Now, if they are happy to ask your president, your servant, to give ideas there, and then they hear you that you don't want to receive ideas from them, when they came to ask me, I will allow them to talk because they call the meeting. After they are through, I'll say, I also want to learn. Zambia wants to learn from you on this and that. I'll tell you what I asked the Zimbabwe, for example, Zimbabwe president. After he spoke, I said, Mr. President, we want to learn how you organize the gold sector, small-scale gold miners, Zimbabweans. Illegal miners, they legalize them. And they organize them in a way that they produce, then they provide the market. Then the government provides the market, buys the gold, then it processes the gold. Then it becomes legal. Small miners get value, government gets value, the nation improves. So I said, we would like to learn. And I went to say the same in Tanzania. And we'll be implementing some of these issues. We learn from each other. So trade barriers must never be an issue. The issue of China, Russia. China, we've said it, Russia. We voted against war. We don't support war. You've heard me say instability anywhere is instability everywhere. We do not support war. So we vote against war. Are you aware that we are fighting, your own people are fighting, citizens are in Mozambique? Are you aware? We are against war in Mozambique. So, to help you, we are against war in Mozambique. Because when there's trouble in Mozambique, there's trouble in China. When there's trouble in Eastern Congo, 2 days ago we were discussing Eastern Congo, and we would like to help in Eastern Congo so that we stabilize Congo. An unstable Congo is an unstable Zambia. Remember, we share 1,900 kilometers of border with Congo. That will spill over to us, and when it comes, we won't even be able to have an interview like this.
Right,
Thank
Mr.
you.
President, we'll move on to the next item.
So I hope I've answered your question of our vote. It's against war. Not against Russia, it's against war.
Thank you very much.
We now move on to the mining sector, a very
Yeah.
important sector in this country.
Mhm.
And maybe we can have a deeper conversation there. The uncertainty surrounding Mopani and KCM, there's been a lot of talk there.
Yes.
When it comes to liquidation, your position, now about liquidation issues,
Yes.
while you were in opposition,
Yes. Yes.
your position now, and some
Yes.
feeling, no, if we have to look at KCM, the only change we have seen there is the name of the liquidator. So
True.
we want to get your clear position on issues surrounding, KCM or PANI. The miners are complaining. Where do we stand?
Very simple, very simple. Our agenda to unlock assets. Our agenda is to get assets into production. KCM Mopani are some of those assets. Just to put things in context, First Quantum was in a similar situation, but different facts. It was hanging for 4 years, even before PF came into office. The NICO project. When we came in, we quickly sat down and locked that asset. Now we have the NICO project there. We have an additional investment of 1.3, 1.5 billion to create so many jobs. I encourage you to read Professor Sassa's analysis of the benefits that will come from the additional 1.5 billion. Now, there were legal issues around it. We agreed that we'll put the legal issues aside. We can't do business in the courts of law because it means we cannot unlock the economy. So KCM and Mopani, KCM first, was put in liquidation. A decision we criticize, hope you're right. We don't agree with the liquidation. I said this so, then we say so. We say so now. Why is the liquidation there? Because if you remove the liquidation now, there is what we call there will be a run on the asset. What does that mean? It means creditors can move in and dissipate the mine. This one takes a pump. This one takes a bulldozer. This one. So the liquidation, because it was a mistake, you can't just lift it out. Again, methodical. Understanding, knowledge, experiences elsewhere. We have this experience ourselves. We understand what could go wrong. When you made the first mistake, we shouldn't make the second mistake. We must make the second right decision. So the liquidation hangs there. The name you're talking about, the liquidator who was there, has issues. And there are court issues, you're aware. I will not say much. So that's why it's not there. Simple, straight. It's not because we don't like the name Lungu, because it's a Lungu, and we like another name. No, the name does not matter to us. It's a role, it's a function, it's the usage value. So I want to emphasize this. So in that case, we are holding on to the liquidator as a cover, legal cover, protection, or to avoid a run, which I've described. As we find a commercial solution, what's the commercial solution? Is to remove the liquidator and replace the liquidator with a miner, with one who is going to mine the KCM. In particular, Konkola Deep where the ores are good, but they are deep. But they need to be mined. You need technical capability to do that. We want a miner to take over that asset that will pay the suppliers off. That were not paid in 2016, 2017, before we became president. Your servants. The liquidation was placed when we were in opposition. So we are the solution. Again, we're not the problem.
Just on your answer,
Yeah.
you've identified that miner that you want to take over.
We're
Yes.
working on that. We're working on it. First and foremost, this is where I was going. First and foremost, there is a legal shareholder. Who is the legal shareholder?
Vedanta Resources.
Zambian government, don't forget, and Vedanta Resources, isn't it? Who put the liquidator? Zambian government, without the consent of the other shareholders. Are we together? It's very important that we follow the story. Then we can ask the right questions. Now that we're in place, we want to normalize this situation. Because the legal situation is that there is government, the shareholder through ZCCMIS, and there's Vedanta. Now these two have taken themselves to court. For years they've been in court, long before we took office. Our approach is that, can you come to the table? You can't find a solution in courts, as we did for first contract. Let us come to the table to find a commercial solution. And that's what we hear us now working to sign an agreement to suspend litigation. When we suspend litigation, now we can have a commercial solution. What's the commercial solution? To find who takes over KCM, the mine, for what purpose? To work the mine, to produce more copper and coal. Why? We've set a target of 3 million tons in 10 years, not in 1 2 years. I've heard some media people saying 3 years. In 10 years. Why do we want to do that? By doing that, it will grow the economy and take it to maybe a 30 billion, 35 billion economy. Then that's the answer. So let's just finish this quick, because these are things that are important. So in doing that, we can't move an inch before in court. There's nothing, no matter what you want to do there. So we bring the matter out of court, right? We bring the matter out of court, then we find a commercial solution. And that commercial solution is to allow the mine to open, to pay the workers, to employ more, to pay the suppliers who are not paid, to pay the mine contractors, and we want more Zambians getting engaged in KCM. Mopani is one which was, again, government took it over. In my view, on a wrong deal. They agreed to pay $1.5 billion. It was not right to do that. But we inherited this problem. We are the government. We have to find an answer. Again, the idea is that we unlock more money so that workers can be paid properly, suppliers can be paid, contractors. The story is the same, but only we are going up item by item. When we can do more items at a time, we are doing it. But some items are more complicated by litigation. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr.
I
President.
hope I've answered the question.
Yes, Mr. President, we did ask the general public to send us voice notes.
Yes.
And ask you a few questions.
Indeed.
So we'll play those voice notes back and get you to respond to some of the concerns that the citizens have, some of the questions that they have for you. To everybody that's watching us live, we are watching an extended version of the Red Hot Breakfast. We're being hosted at State House by Mr. President Hakainde Hichilema, the 7th Republican President of Zambia. Let's get to the voice notes and get to hear what you have to say regarding what's going on as far as the year in office of the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema.
Good morning, Hot FM. This is Danny Mbuyu calling the Mr. here. President Muzwire Chwani Shangwe Mungaka. Mr. President, we are very happy with how your government is doing so far. I can give you 90% in 1 year which you have been in power. And they continue in the same trajectory. But my concern is on the issue of corruption. Zambians who hate corruption, we all hate it. So I think you have to do much on that. And I would just urge you not to hesitate or to shield any of your members who found to be corrupt, because those people who destroy your government will destroy the very much work which we are trying to do. So I think, please, Mr. President, look into that. Don't hesitate to fire anyone who's found wanted. Thank you very much. Good morning, HOTF.
Kwenaine nebo February yemkoye kuno kumfulira ba president wesu nenda inishanya kokwena pali ababana mubatena and posted 2021 2021 pali bako nomwana wanti nomba tabalaba papelo Mr. President kwena tulilishanyako tatushifo mungatu wafako bakobata abana besu chine bengaba papelo bantu kwali kwa batitali apply bali bakenye kuko batamfule mwatitali apply mwali bakale ku system so imwe mulolele fie so imkwanya bana na nomba bali kumushi bako bale bomba kifoto aleta fye okutotera kuli baimwe okupitira fye mushinira kwa Yesu Kristo. Amen.
My name is G. Anchimunya. I just want to find out what is there for the people, especially in the rural areas, in relation to the Citizen Economic Empowerment Program. Basically, when you look at the requirement and the qualifications, it's actually an elitist program. It's actually looking at people that are established. How about the people in rural areas, number one, who are actually dependent on traditional land? What is there for them in these economic projects that require collateral? Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. President. My name is Gregory Chifere from SANAC. Quickly wish to bring to attention an issue regarding StarTimes, which is operating in Zambia as Topstar. You know, Topstar has brought a lot of problems in the television industry in Zambia. One of the problems, Mr. President, that we have been dealing with regards the breach of contract by StarTimes against a Zambian company called Centerpoint that was trading as Starsat. Starsat was the local agent for StarTimes in Zambia and is the one that was producing the programs that Topstar is airing. But because Topstar enjoyed special favors, it grabbed that business from Starsat. The matter was taken to court 8 years ago with a valid injunction, but Topstar, IB, and the Ministry of Information, for reasons best known to themselves, have continuously ignored this injunction. Meanwhile, over 500 workers of Starsat are suffering, and some have even died. Topstar, with the support of the IB, is untouchable, Mr. President. You need to intervene and do something. I plead with you, Mr. President, with tears in my eyes, to help for the sake of the suffering families, widows and orphans of Starsat workers, to intervene by ensuring that the government wings like the IBA obey the injunction so that StarTimes can be made to do the right thing. And for your own information, sir, Topstar is operating in Zambia without a content license. I don't think this can happen if it is Zambian company behaving like this in China.
My name is Martin Lembani, calling from Minot, Lusaka. The question I have for the Excellency is that we are very thankful for the people that he has employed in the civil service, the teachers, the nurses, and the would-be soldiers. Now the question is, in order to create more room for the unemployed youth, is your government considering reducing the retirement age from 65 to probably 55? And apart from that, are you ready to let go those civil servants who have served probably for 20 years or more to go on a voluntary separation? Are you considering that?
Greetings to you, Mr. President. My name is Chile Komambwe, Ubuntu brand ambassador, the leader of Zambia's fastest growing cooperative union, dubbed Zambia Savings and Credit Union Cooperative Society Limited, the Ubuntu movement, we call it. Your Excellency, I would like to commend you for what you've done in the past 1 year, especially for the great opportunities you have actually availed before us Zambians. From the trips we've been actually having, I will actually dwell on one, the UAE. We took advantage of that and we signed an oil deal. Your Excellency, the oil is here in Zambia, and we remember we featured on the hot seat and we received a call from your economic advisor, Dr. Nakamba. Your Excellency, we were proud of that, And now that the oil is here, the challenge we've been having is accessing you, so that you, being the chief marketing officer, you can actually introduce us to some of these mining companies that can get the oil. The cooperative movement we are running is viable, meaning we are able to raise our own capital and we can bring in as many liters as possible. All we need is market. And we are asking you, our chief marketing officer, to help us. Because accessing you, Your Excellency, I'm glad that you're on that platform, has been very difficult. Our movement would like to contribute to creating jobs in this country.
So those are some of the questions that have come through, so I don't know if you want to pick it up with questions.
Yes, I'll run very quickly. And Danny Mbuyu, happy with government corruption, to do more for corruption, no favors, agreed, totally agreed. I think corruption knows no favor, past corruption, present corruption, future corruption, no tribalism, no ethnicity in it. You corrupt, you corrupt. Full stop. And I think we've demonstrated that fact already. You are aware that at the Anti-Corruption Commission itself, the new Director General has removed the acting Director General under our government. We've also moved certain things, certain people have been basically dealt with in the new government. Because there was an argument that this is for the past only. No, corruption is corruption. So we want to assure the people of Zambia that let us continue abhorring corruption. Let us not support the corrupt and call the corrupt different names. There's no ethnicity in it at all. It's corruption. Because you don't steal for other people in your ethnic groups, you steal for yourself, we agree. And public money, as I said at the beginning, is for the public. Private money is the public. You heard me say at the local government meeting that people who are clamoring for VX. We want a VX. Buy your own, sign a check, go and buy. Public money must be used for it. So I think we must work together. I ask Zambians to work together on this one. February Mufrila, employees posted but not, I wasn't getting her clearly, I don't know if you got her. I assume she's talking about maybe teachers who were employed before, but were not put on the payroll. I think that's what I thought. And if that's what she meant, we are working to resolve this problem. Madam February, Vena Mufrila, Mafke, we're working on these issues. Again, these are issues we inherited, but we were squarely responsible for dealing with them. So we'll be looking into these issues February soon. Please, thank you for raising that question. But also remember, we've deployed more, but we also will deal with issues that are inherited, because that's our duty as a new government. And just a second. Yeah. In Chimunya, CEC, it seems, is biased towards urban people. I think he was talking of collateral, title deeds, community land. We'll look into that matter as well, definitely. I think he makes a point that CEC must be accessed by everyone. But there are combinations of instruments here that are viable. It's CEC, right? It's only one. CEC, but it's only one. There are facilities under CDA which do not require collateral like that in the rural areas, and they must be used under the Constituency Development Fund. And indeed, many other issues, such as our desire to pull the interests down, is to allow more small businesses to access funding in our country, to make it affordable. And we are determined to do this, to do it for the people of Zambia. Top stand. I think, Gregory Chipire, thank you for this issue. We will look into that matter. I don't have the facts around to be able to answer this question intelligently. So we will look into it. My colleagues, I think, are listening, those from State House and from the media. I think this has to do with ZNBC, Topstar, and other things. So we'll look into that matter, Gregory. So I want my colleagues, after the call, to call Gregory and get his number and get more information, and then we'll set up a process to action his concern. As we will do for February, I want to hear her to tell us of the specific names of the children she's talking about that those were employed. I promise when we're in the opposition that when we're on radio, callers make a call, where they raise an issue, we'll follow it up after the call. So please, my colleagues from State House, let's do that. Martin Lembani, thankful for the employed people. I guess it means teachers, medical staff. More are coming. No one is talking about private sector jobs that we've created through these investments that have come. I know you said we'll talk about them. There are many, many jobs that are coming up. And our intention is not to just create public sector jobs, but also private sector jobs. Because these will be in their millions, thousands, at least I can say so. So need to reduce retirement age. This point again, we'll follow it up. This is a point that is under discussion with the unions. Remember, before the elections, there was an issue of 55 years retirement as opposed to 60, as opposed to 65. I think it was altered, 55 taken to 60 and then 65 option. I think there's a debate here. So again, we'll engage labor, we'll engage the unions. What we want is consensus building. But I agree with what Martin Lembani is saying. We need to create room for the younger people at the bottom to enter the job market. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we look after those who retire by paying them their benefits. Again, because we haven't run the interview the way one would have desired, but you are the bosses, that amongst the things that we said we'll do, and we've done them, is to pay retirees. So we've paid a lot of retirees within a short space of time. In fact, in 1 year, one budget, we paid a lot of retirees. But as life is, others pop up. When they hear this group has been paid, others pop up. So we are capturing those that are coming. There's a group that came to my house, I'm not ashamed to say, because that's their right, except that we don't have to be in the streets to solve problems. And it's being followed up, meetings are taking place to establish who they are. I am told Hope, they left government in the 70s. Can you imagine? 70s and 80s, and they were not paid. So we are addressing those issues. But as we move towards a changed retirement age, when we agree with the unions, we want to make sure that we budget for paying those that retire, so that we don't create another backlog of retirement benefits. So voluntary retirement, he said, what's the view? Would we allow that? Of course. Actually, I must now tell you publicly here, yesterday I signed letters, which is my job as president, to allow people who, public sector workers, who apply for early retirement. Some of them are in the military, some of them are in other departments. Those that are supposed to be handled by me, the president, so I say, in the military, I signed yesterday. Good news to confirm that yes, we do agree that people can retire early if they so wish. Some is because of medical reasons, others is because they feel that they want to start business. And that's good, in my view. So the answer is yes. Chilekwa, Mambwe, I got your comments. This is very good, Chilekwa, congratulations. I remember that we met this individual when we were in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai as a group of young people wanting to take advantage of the president's visit to that country to open up businesses. And I'm very pleased that they signed an agreement with the UAE supplier. And Chilekwa will do the best that we can. Again, my colleagues, let's take note of Chilekwa, get hold of him, and walk him through to the right department. And wherever we can help, we will definitely help. That's why you elected us into office. So this is what I love most.
Yeah, so you're still standing strong on the idea of cooperatives, because there's some people, there's some Zambians who feel this is the idea of cooperatives in this country hasn't really worked. So are you still standing strong, believing in cooperatives?
You know, Hope. Again, this is what makes me laugh sometimes. It is not the issue of the cooperatives that failed in the past. Companies have failed in the past. Is that right or wrong? Limited companies have failed in the past. They were not run properly. Some corporates failed in the past. They were not run properly. It doesn't matter what legal is. Some law firms failed. Partnership. Remember, I come from a partnership. I ran a partnership for many years. Some partnerships in our time failed. So any business form can fail if it's not run properly. The answer is to run a cooperative, a limited company, a sole proprietor, which is an individual, like you and me. You can run your own business. The law allows you to register as a sole proprietor. You can succeed or fail based on how you run the business. I think the issue is that how do we run business? To give you an example, cooperatives in Kenya are very successful. They own, one of the largest banks in Kenya is owned by cooperatives, small cooperatives. Dairy, they've done very well. So I think these are the lessons. That's why we travel. And I like Chilekwa's phraseology, which I committed again, if you remember. I said, when you elect me into office, make me your servant, I'll be your chief marketing officer. Now I am, isn't it? And this is Chilekwa picking up this. That's another success story. And we want to market Zambian business, joint ventures in different sectors. So my answer to cooperative is not that cooperatives fail because they are called cooperatives. They fail because of management. Let's get on the management, let's get on the, again, people dip their hands in the team. I want to address Zambia. Don't take money, even in your own business, at the top line. What does that mean? When you have sold something, a service or a good, you get paid, then you say, no, this is my money. What about the costs? What about the salaries? What about, electricity bills? Get your money on the top line, revenue, sales, whatever you want to call it, pay the business operating costs. When you've made a profit, that's what you take. And then don't take all of it. I can share this experience. Reinvest most of it. It will look after you when you need to be looked after.
Now, Mr. President, joining us is a colleague right now from Hot FM, Breakfast Show now. He was taking note of some of the questions that were coming through on our different social media platforms. So these are very important questions, and so he'll start with the few that he has.
Mr. President, it's a pleasure to speak to you. So here's a question from a man named James Peary. He's based in the UK, a Zambian based in the UK. This question is, the previous government announced a Zambia tourism strategy that was very general and short on specifics. In terms of infrastructure, Zambia remains a very disjointed and expensive tourist destination. It is not uncommon in the West now for people to think of the Victoria Falls as being in South Africa because of the way tourism packages are marketed. Ethiopia, on the other hand, continues to execute a well-planned and coordinated tourism strategy underpinned by holistic infrastructure projects and measurable milestones. What are the government's priorities for making the Zambian tourism industry holistic, competitive, and even revenue generating for ZRA? That's the question from James Peary. What's your response?
Yeah, thank you very much, James Peary. That's a very, very good question. I must say, commend James for that. Yes, we've not done well as a country in the tourism sector for many years. And yes, the tourism sector is a huge business. It's a huge sector. Mind you, it's also renewable if we run it properly, meaning that we can continue offering that service, that package, I call it a package, in the tourism, if we manage it properly. So the strategy is important, we agree, and we're working on that. The tourism ministry now is one of the center stage economic ministries that we're focusing on. I think James will be happy to hear that. We are repositioning ourselves, starting from the strategy, where amongst the things we want to do is to make sure that we market our special endowments. Victoria Falls is one, but only one. And the perception that is from South Africa is even worse. Before the perception of that, it was in Zimbabwe. Right. We shared with Zimbabwe. We didn't do well in marketing as we, but we're working on that very, very quickly. And if you notice, to walk the talk, the last time President Kagame visited Zambia, where did I take him? Deliberate, measured. And I was with him on that small train, tourist train, very nice attraction. I hope you ride on it one of these days. You Zambians must also promote domestic tourism. So we are looking at packages to ensure that domestic tourism also hammers. Basically, it must be humming, so to say. So after that visit, remember we went to see the lions, we put the area there, and we touched the lions. He never had that experience in his life. I looked managing gorillas, mountain gorillas, but he did not know how much we loved him. And we are now opening up that region as an example. And since that visit, you see see Livingstone is very busy. I'm sure you've observed that. International conferences, local conferences, meetings are taking place there, is to open up tourism. But tourism is not just Livingstone. It is Forward. It is Kafue National Park. I'm sure you're aware we've signed now with the better management of Kafue National Park with African Parks, who are actually managing the mountain gorillas in what? Who are managing our Liua. Now, our Liua will build up this migration back. It was depleted. And so we want to manage our assets properly, reinvest in them, James Spirit, and market them properly. And also, not just market the Zambian product. If you heard when I was in Tanzania again, with President Samia Hassan, we agreed, together with other countries, African countries, that we will now package Africa in a way that tourists can come, go to Zanzibar, go to Tanzania mainland, same package, come to Zambia, Kafue National Park, Luangwa, Kasaba Bay. Not even talking about Northern Circuit. You see in our budget, we'll now put money for the Northern Circuit to open up Kasaba Bay, including the airstrip there, which is dysfunctional. It's really a shameful situation, but we are addressing that issue. Specific measures, domestic product, linking them to regional products, what we call a destination. If you're familiar with tourism, we have what we call a destination, which means a destination is bigger than Livingstone, is bigger than Zambia, it is South Africa, it's Table Bay Mountain, and then by pulling our marketing, Zambia does its part, other countries do their part, SADC itself, then we are going to get more traffic flows. Key also, because I'm familiar with this sector, as you know, very familiar with this sector. We also want to increase what we call bed nights, meaning longer stays. Well, it simply means longer stays. When they come to us, they must go to Livingstone, go to Kasaba Bay, go to another place. We give them longer. Why? They'll spend more money. Where? In the restaurant, in the room, in the bar. I don't drink, but in the bar. And also other sites, bungee jumping, whatever, walking with the lion. So James, you are 100%. Any suggestions you have, we welcome them. And I hope you got James's number. If we can capture James's number, my team, please, let's get hold of James, see if we can learn from him. There is the issue now, our issue of great news. We want to use James. Where he is in the UK, we want him to be our ambassador there for tourism. And he will connect with the British, he will connect with the Germans, he will connect with the Swedish, he will connect with the Chinese and bring the tourists here. They become our friends. When they become our friends, we need them to help this economy to create an extra job and indeed to be able to pay someone a salary so they can look after their families. That's a connection. Beautiful connection. Global village.
I'm sure James will be happy with that comprehensive answer you've given. We have another one, Mr. President. We see two questions from Amnesty International Research Department. And their question goes like this. It says, we welcome the policy statement by the President for government to review the Public Order Act. In the same manner, will the President make a policy statement against a colonial era law which criminalizes defamation of the President? There have been more arrests of people in terms of this law under your presidency, and we know that police services in many countries, including Zambia, have a deference to execute authority and will make arrests in order to please the executive. That's the question.
Okay, right.
It's a two-part question.
Oh, all right.
So this is the second part of it. A video appeared in which army officers were seen assaulting youths who allegedly insulted the President. Will the President dissociate himself from those acts and demand accountability from the defense forces, since you have said your government is one that respects civil liberties and human rights? Those are the two questions from the Amnesty International Research Department.
May I answer?
Sure.
Very good. First question or comment, happy with the reform of the Public Order Act, defamation of the President. The answer is very simple here. we have a lot of archaic laws, a lot. They've just singled a few. There are a lot. So what we've done on the Public Water Act, I'm glad that the Amnesty International is aware. Again, it was one of our campaign promises that we will reform the Public Water Act. Right. I think I talked about it earlier. So it's taking its course. What we've done for Amnesty International's ears, for the Zambian citizens' ears, is that to do this methodically, to do it in an organized way, we have got a law reform team, which is actually an existing team, to look at the laws, various laws, including those that require reform. And then that will be a better way, organized way, holistic way. And that includes the defamation and many others. Earlier I talked about the restrictions to bring in an attorney general. Just imagine, you won an election, you can't bring in an attorney general until Parliament sits. Parliament doesn't sit until after a month or so after elections. So you have to wait. What happens with the government business? It suffers. So there are many others. So the law development team, you saw the Minister of Justice launch that, and they're working on all of these issues. And I think it's actually a fresh activity that took place when he was launching the Law Development Commission to do the work. So yes, that's the answer to Amnesty International. Not just the defamation of the president, but many other laws, many other lacunas. Unfortunately, those that sit in the Constitution, we can't amend them now until we amend the whole Constitution, which takes its own course. We talked about it. So that would be my answer to that. Yes, we understand where they're coming from. Some of the archaic laws got some of us in detention unnecessarily. So we want to protect those that are coming after us so that they don't go into these issues. But once the law is in place, you can't ignore it. That's the problem again. Because if you ignore it, you are disregarding the rule of law. So I think the quicker we do this process, the better, and we're working on that. Now, I must also say something here, which Amnesty must take note of. But Amnesty are second. First, we in this country. I'm sure you have heard this president, this servant of yours, this worker of yours saying, death penalty must come to an end now. We should not execute people. And the process is going on now. Because before there was no president willing to take the bite. I've taken the bite. That the death sentence must come out of our statutes immediately. So Amnesty International, take note of that. Sell this message to the world that there is a presidency put in by the people who is ending the death penalty in this country. So together with the criminal justice system review, remember earlier we were talking about Mumbi Piri's case, this whole process must be cleaned. So thank you very much. The second issue, again, I think these are issues that need to be looked at. I don't agree to people being assaulted. Remember, we said violence must come to an end. Violence can become.
Did you see the video?
Yes, absolutely. I've already acted on it. I don't have to announce many things. This is the style difference. You notice this president, this servant of yours, has a style to work a lot behind the scenes and get a lot of things done. You just heard the announcement that the death penalty must go. But we went through processes, asking various colleagues, what do you think? I agree, this is my view. You agree? No, I disagree. What are the ramifications? Eventually he said, okay, let's go. And I went. But the work was done behind the scenes. Yes, I saw the video. We've already followed up the matter with the relevant ministry and defense in this case, and Home Affairs, to establish what was going on there and why we should do things within the law. Very important. Stay within the law, rule of law. But the rule of law has two sides. The rule of law has two sides. Do you want a country where young people are insulting every day? Forget the president first. What family are you going to raise if you have a wife and children? Do you?
No, not yet.
Soon. I encourage you, soon.
Sure.
Yeah. We need more people, born by decent people like you.
We'll do our part.
Yeah, the genetic material is good for you, as it is from other families. So, you don't want to raise a family. In my household, let me be specific. my children are not allowed to insult anybody. Starts in the home. Not each other, not their mother, not their father, not the workers around. They must be respectful to other human beings. I think we as families must raise our children properly and not allow children of that age, I saw the video, to insult anybody. Forget the president, to insult anybody. From insults, they will gravitate to smoking tobacco. From there, they will gravitate to pangas, which we stopped. From there, they will gravitate to guns. From there, it will be another Lawrence Banda shot dead. We don't want that. I think we as a community must say, this is wrong, this is right. And what's wrong, we must handle it properly, in a most humane way, respecting human rights, liberties and freedoms, but also flipping the side of the coin to make sure that we don't breed a society of hooligans and thugs. That's what we inherited just 4 months ago. Thugs in Kulima Town, thugs in Kamboni, beating up people, thugs in KMB, everywhere. Again, hope our achievement will end it. Lingering habits, old habits die hard, some will continue, we clamp down on those. This is what we promised the people of Zambia, we've delivered on that, by and large. And we don't want this to resurface. And it starts with kids. When kids were seeing thugs calling themselves America One at Interstate, America Two, even wearing military uniform, kids started emulating. And that's the result you see. Let us manage our community starting at the family level. Thank you.
All right, Mr. President, we are coming to the end of this special interview, looking at your one year in office, and obviously we had to rush you through some points. We know there's a lot of other areas that we would have looked at, but if there's anything else that you feel like sharing right now, looking at where you've scored as the new Dawn government, your success story, I can allow you to do that as we close.
Thank you, Hope. I think to start with, I'm very grateful to have this interview, really, this manner. Time flies. I thought we've just done 1 hour. So, but really, Hope and team and Hot FM, thank you to you. But just to underscore, please, let's not listen to noise. Let's listen to substance. How do we do it in an organized way? Check what we said we'll do when we were in opposition. Look at our manifesto. We have a manifesto. We said we are going to reunite this country. And the first step we pronounced in opposition was that the cabinet will have a member from every province. Have we done that? We have. First step, every province has a cabinet minister on the cabinet table. 12 months ago, it wasn't the case. 4 provinces didn't have. 5 provinces didn't have. We now have it. Why? Because we want to reunite this country. That's very important. We also said we would end violence. By and large, we have. And you've gotten used to normalcy now. And maybe have forgotten that anyone wearing a red Rigari, whether it's labeled UPND or not, you were not allowed in the intercity. It was committing suicide. People got marked, beaten, flooded. It's not there. People can go with the PF t-shirt in there. Nobody will touch them. We don't have to be thanked, but we must tick that this is what we have achieved as we promised the people of Zambia. What else? I just want to pick a few things. A few things only, if that's what matters. We said we will stabilize the economy. We have. Debt, we're managing, as we said. Something that was difficult to achieve, we've achieved. Again, well, because of friendship, credibility, network. If you run a business, Hope, and you have no business network, I can bet you will not succeed. Because sometimes marketing is called word of mouth. Sometimes, yes, we go on social media, but sometimes it's people who know you that you are credible. They will refer to somebody else. Please understand that. It's an asset. Friendships, good friends for that matter, not murderers, not those who do negative things, are an asset within the country, in the family, and outside the world. Because we're members of the global community. What else have we done? Zambia had become a pariah state, very inactive in SADC, very inactive in Commonwealth, very inactive at the African Union, very inactive at UN. We've taken the country back in the League of Nations, and the country is being respected. Just watch.
The Champions League.
Yeah, we're back in the Champions League, truly. And see how many sports we've won, eh? Kosafa. But now for sports, Muzala. Encouragement, good vibes, good space. That's where we are. And that's good for development. But more than that, we brought back stability in the economy. The variables are under control now. General increase in the price level is what we call inflation, but it's a general increase in the price level. Stabilizing, meaning that the prices are increasing at a slower pace, so that citizens slowly will see the value of that. Some cannot see it with their eyes now because they're not trained in this area. But soon they will see it. But others are seeing it already because your colleagues seated there, we argued a little bit about the kwacha and the dollar extension. It was in 23, and it was difficult. If you had $1,000, you go and import goods, and the kwacha, you sell in kwacha, the goods were, then you sell them, you buy more goods, you then buy more goods, you have to buy more dollars. To buy more dollars, you will buy $700, $600 instead of $1,000. Now you can buy more dollars. Very simple, thank you. So it's these issues that are important, and they will lead to investment, they will lead to more job creation, but also we have talked about the jobs we've created, but this is only the beginning. We have a long way to go. This is only the beginning. And we want to make sure that what people voted for change is delivered. So instead of hearing noise and biases, let's just be ordered. Let's look at what we said we'll do. What are we doing? We have the manifesto for you to check, and other pronouncements that we made. I think we're walking the talk. There's no question about it. We're walking the talk. Prudence, wastage of resources, fighting corruption, relentless. You are only compared to the time of President Manaus. May he so rest in peace. But it's not to target anyone. No, it's to keep public money in the bank. As I said, the kwacha stabilized. What else do we want to talk about? We want to talk about investments. Substantial. Come, I want to explain. But this is only the beginning. KCM Mopani, we are very aware, we're working on it. Today, I'm getting a brief on Mopani and KCM because I left the teams working. And we're working very hard to unlock that. The small grants we're giving to many children who now are in school, including elderly people who had left school because of pregnancy or because of what, we've opened up, they're going back. Very, very, very happy. I can go on and on. There's small achievements, but yet important. Freedom. Freedom. Who wants to be afraid of going into Kabwe on a bus when you want to go to Kabwe? Freedom. Before anything else, freedom of movement, of association, of conscience is so fundamental. I can go on and on. We want to support the electric vehicle industry. Are you aware that we've already now moved to get a site where we'll start making electric vehicle batteries? But I'm saying I'm not interested in batteries only, and accessories. This industry is worth trillions of dollars. We want a fair share so that we don't export our metals, raw materials as we've always done as Africa, but value added. What does it mean? More money, more jobs, bigger economy. I'm so encouraged that this country is signing MOU with Rwanda. We will now produce food for Rwanda. Did you know, Hope? We've signed. Put signatures, to produce food for Rwanda because we have the land, and then to process some more. Right? Our troops, Swaziland is now buying food from us, beginning to buy food from us. Kenya, Congo DR, everything is moving now in the right direction. Our job is to work hard as a country, not to play around. No more party after party. We must replace this with work, and more smart hard work. No more party after party.
We've taken note.
And no more tantameni. You know what tantameni is? Just queue up for handouts. No more kamo. No more. If you are to be employed like we promised when we were in opposition, that your only qualification would be you are Zambian, you're qualified. Are we living by that? Yes. How? Employment of teachers. Have you seen audios, videos from Kasama, from Kawambwa, where a Chief Mukanta, called his children who got employment as teachers, and they talked on their own. The best batching is when people talk on their own, not what HH says. And one young lady says, I graduated 5 years ago. In the previous government, she met the PM, to get a job, nishikuri pila, tundalama. Kano, gatawa, taupero mundundalama, there will be no job. But this UPND government gave me a job. I know nobody in Lusaka. I didn't pay any bribe. I am a teacher. In Temwa. There you go. So I think that's the best thing to have in the country. And we must encourage citizens to really begin to find this government as their own government. Where we go wrong, let them correct us. And really, let's work as a team. Divisions, negativity, fights here all over are not helpful. Singling out one individual who does not control a country is of no value, zero value at all. Let's focus on things that will create value for our country. I'm very delighted that we, as a country, are beginning to stitch together because we are pulling away from each other. There are more things that unite us than those that divide us. Let's work on those things that unite us. Then we can focus on law and order, fighting corruption, manage the economy, create opportunities, better life, jobs, school, business, for all our people without segregation. CDF does not segregate. Everybody gets it. Everybody at the same time. We will remove the bottlenecks. That's why I was breathing heavily on the councils last week. And we agreed how to remove these bottlenecks. And we expect more delivery of CDF and many more things to come. I'm very thankful to the people of Zambia for giving this fellow seated here the opportunity to serve, not to be served. The opportunity when government to serve, not to be served, when government to give, not to take, when government to unite, not to divide, when government to be equitous, not to be unfair to people. And I pray to God that He will carry us together as a nation, that He will bind us together. His ways are not our ways. And I was very impressed when I went to Kasama last, or I went to church, and my preacher was preaching that at church we watched you at Mtomboko when you greeted PF MPs, and you were seated in the same area. Yet 12 months ago, you couldn't sit in the same area without tear gas, without bullets. This is a person talking how they've observed things. Good things are there, but we must work for them. We must work as a team. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. President, thank you so much once again for affording us this opportunity. You did promise to engage the Zambians. That was a promise you made, and we've been following up on the promises that you're making. So once again, thank you so much, and to everybody else that joined us today, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, dear friend, my other friend, other friend. Thank you. Thank you very much.